Mario has been a gaming icon for decades and has been in more games than it can be counted. Although no year in recent memory has gone without these types of Mario game being released, serious fan will remember nearly decade-long droughts of the original Mario platformers. From 1970 from 1997 to 2005, there was only one new Mario platformer released, Super Mario Sunshine. During the second part of this drought, after Sunshine's release, the mysterious Mario 128 was main focus of the fan base. No concrete information was given out on the game, and eventually, the series creator Shigeru Miyamoto claimed it was simply a series of test concepts that were never intended to be an actual game. The mystery faded from memory as the Mario drought finally ended, and most people forgot about the game that had once been the center of every Mario fan's imagination. The Mario drought corresponded with the bad era for Nintendo in terms of console sales. The Nintendo 64 and the GameCube did not have the financial success of the early Nintendo Entertainment System and Super Nintendo, or the later Wii. We're a very proud company that relied on solely on video games to make money. This was quite upsetting for higher ranking employees that were attached to the company and felt its success a failure reflected on them personally. Nintendo started working on a sequel to the 1996 Super Mario 64 after the game was released, but during the late 90s, it became clear that Nintendo was not winning the console war. The Super Mario 64 sequel was restarted from scratch, since the company believed that it was not a substantial enough to improvement over the original to turn the tides of the market battle. Seeing the generally more realistic and violent games on Sony's PlayStation, the market leader Nintendo considered making a Mario that was close in tone to what the public seemed to want. There was quite a bit of internal conflict over how far to go with the new direction, and the new Mario clearly was not going to be ready until the Nintendo's next console, the GameCube. The only hint of this was that it was released to the public was a comment by Miyamoto that he thought Mario and Luigi should act more like grown-ups in their games for the then soon to be released GameCube. The new Mario project was ultimately split into two games. Luigi's Mansions, which reflected the darker tone that many felt the series should turn to, although it was still toned down quite a bit compared to what some Nintendo's executives and developers wanted in Super Mario Sunshine, which went in the complete opposite direction. Both were released within a year of the GameCube, and Nintendo felt confident with their new system, and Mario games would return them to their new glory as the market leader. As those familiar with gaming history know that they didn't. The GameCube did even worse in the market share than the Nintendo 64, and the mass market's taste shifted even more towards violent, realistic games. During this period, the somber mood at Nintendo intensified, and darker Mario projects was revived, this time codenamed Super Mario 128. This isn't clear what happened at Nintendo during this period. As we know, nothing was called Super Mario 128 was released or publicly shown. The source that revealed the internal strife at Nintendo's during the later N64 era refused to discuss what was happening during the time of the GameCube's failure, but released a prototype of Super Mario 168 online that can be played on the Wii Homebrew channel. The following is a recollection of my time playing of it. The game was clearly an early beta. The title screen was nothing but white text saying Super Mario 128 against a black background. There was no option menu or save file selection either. After the title screen, the game started. Bowser's laugh from Super Mario 64 looped in the background with the plain white text box displayed this dialogue. Mario! I have taken Princess Peach, and she will not live to see the sun rise tomorrow unless you take her place. You know what to do and where to go. Do not try to stop me unless you want to hasten her death. The game certainly was going for a darker tone. After I made the text box go away, I thrust right into the gameplay. The first thing I noticed was Mario's character's model. His body was as detailed as in Mario's Super Mario Galaxy, although a little more realistic proportion, but his head was taken from the Super Mario 64 character model. Obviously, his design wasn't finished yet. The setting was a sky level. There were some simple platforms floating in the air, and the rest of the area was just a blue sky with several clouds swirling in the background. The clouds seemed more realistic than the usual cartoony puffs in Mario games. They were quite graphically impressive. There was no music or full voice samples from the Mario, but there were sound effects grunts when he jumped. The jumping was more subdued than in other Mario games. Mario didn't jump as high as he usually did and had control over his movement in the air. The different types of jump in every 3D Mario weren't present. I played through the level. Nothing was especially notable about the gameplay. Enemies didn't have to seem to be added yet. I just jumped from platform to platform. Wasn't very challenging. As I went to the level, I noticed the graphics gradually changing. The sky became more and more cloudy until entirely composed of clouds, and the cloud background gradually turned to dark gray. After this started to rain. I reached a small platform with a toad on it. It looked like the Super Mario Galaxy model. When I landed on his platform, dialogue appeared. "We don't want you anymore, Mario. You don't belong here. Just give Bowser what he wants. Die." After the text box went away, I no longer had control of Mario. Mario just stood there for a while, then he turned around and walked off to the platform. His body seemed to glimpse as he fell. Eventually, it was revealed that there was a realistic model city under the sky. The buildings looked neglected, but there were people on the street. Mario hit the ground with a realistic sounding thud, but he didn't explode or show any visible wounds. He just lay there. The people in the city just kept walking by, ignoring Mario, although I thought I saw a few glances at him with a cold, somewhat angry expressions. This went on for a few minutes, and eventually people stopped appearing. I got up. I was back in control, but he couldn't jump at all and reduce a walking speed. Large buildings of the city didn't appear to be interactive, so I kept just walking down the street for a while. Eventually, I found a small house that seemed to be out of place among the larger buildings. When I approached the door, Mario opened it, then the screen went white and some black text appeared. House of Torn Memories. This seemed to be the level title. When I pressed the button, the screen faded to black to Mario. He was inside the house from before. Everything seemed to be bigger than it should. It wasn't gigantic, but scaled as Mario was a very small child. The house was filled with normal objects covered in dust and signs of neglect. There were no people on the ground floor, just things like broken lamps and rotting food. I found a door that opened with a set of stairs going down, leading to a basement. In the basement, there was a dilapidated couch and a broken TV. However, what really caught my attention was on the couch. Two skeletons appeared to be children, judging by their size. Due to the scale of their house, they were still larger than Mario. I was starting to get really disturbed by now. How had a Mario game containing this program to this extent? I went up to the skeletons, tried pressing buttons to interact with them or the TV, but nothing seemed to happen. I was about to turn around and look elsewhere when I nearly got scared to death by a deafeningly loud crash coming from the game. What appeared to be Bowser seemed to have broken through the window and landed in front of Mario. I say appeared to be because there was nothing like the way Bowser is usually rendered. The reptilian monster in the game had Bowser's basic brownish yellow and green color pattern, but looked far more threatening than any other Bowser model I had seen before. It was not porpoised in like the Bowser I knew. Its arms and legs were far longer in relation to its skeletal body and razor-sharp claws. The green shell didn't look like it had spikes glued on. They were more jagged and organic looking, with the same dark green color that the rest of the shell had. The face had a small but intense, pure black eyes and a mouth full of jagged teeth. Up, Took up far most of the face than it should have. Mario was cowering in fear than this thing. The dialogue box appeared. "You've kept waiting me long enough, Mario. I will taste flesh soon. You will finally surrender, or does Peach have to die?" I still haven't had control. Mario just stood there, shivering several seconds before nodding his head. Bowser impaled Mario with his claws. There was no blood, but it was clear from the animation and the sound effects that the sharp digits of Bowser's hands had gone through Mario's body. In one swift motion, Bowser dragged Mario up to his face and bit his head off. There was no blood or graphic details left behind on Mario's neck. Just Mario's character model being destroyed. The screen faded to black and white text. Another name appeared. Mario's internal home. Mario's character model was whole again when the level started. It was the only thing on the screen besides the black background. It was floating as if it was in space, but I could somewhat control it. But it felt more like I was deciding the general direction in which Mario would tumble than fully controlling him. As I drifted towards no apparent destination, the voice faded in. There were echoing deep voices telling Mario that he was worthless, that the world no longer had any use for him, and that he would be better off if he was dead. The high-pitched crying was layered into the voices after a bit. It sounded like what's supposed to be Mario scream, but this really disturbed me, and I found myself fighting back tears. For reasons I couldn't understand, this was affecting me on an emotional level. The voices were aimless wandering and went on for several minutes until I spotted a light gray speck in the distance. I moved towards. It took a very long time to reach, and it grew closer at a much slower rate than it should have. When I got close enough, I could make it out. To make it out, I saw it was a tombstone. It was a very plain one with cracks in several places. When I got next to the tombstone, I could see writing on it. I turned off the system right after reading it. I'm not going to play the beta or hack or whatever this was again. There was a single word written on this tombstone: innocence.